afternoon, everyone. I think we can get started. People are hopefully trickling in. Just a very warm welcome to you all. I know that you're calling from different parts of the world. Maybe it's good afternoon, maybe it's good evening for some of you. And my name is Namita Datta, and I'm the head of a global program that's based at the World Bank called Solutions for Youth Employment. Of course, the focus is youth employment. We have a large number of partners, several NGOs, private companies, foundations, and donors. And one of our main objectives is to identify new and interesting solutions, particularly innovative ones, that are currently being designed and led by different organizations, but in particular, uh, interesting innovations that are led by youth. Um, that 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 gets us even more excited when it's a youth-led innovation. But in S4Y we have a particular keen sort of radar on trying to identify innovative practices and to really offer this platform to share some of those ongoing innovations, including where innovations because they are innovative sometimes don't work very well in the beginning and there's this constant experimentation. So even to share some challenges that people may experience while designing them. Uh, so we are so delighted that today we will talk about the issue. And can I request everyone to mute themselves? There's a little bit of a disturbance from somebody's uh, uh, computer. I'm so delighted that the topic that we're going to talk about today is job matching. We all, whoever cares about employment, knows that this is an issue. Young people looking for jobs, employers looking for young people, the right kind of young people, I guess, or employees, but not knowing exactly how to find the right on both sides. And for young people, this can be particularly frustrating because how do you, when you don't have a ton of experience, you don't have like this 4-page CV because you're just beginning your life. How do you communicate to the employer who you are and what strengths and skills you might have and what you may not have, or what you would like to learn on the job? And for the employer, how to figure out who will fit, not just in terms of just the right skills, but also the right mindset and the right attitude. Um, how does one do this? How does one figure out this, what we call information asymmetry? And it's frustrating for both sides of the equation. And so I'm so delighted that today we are going to talk about two particular examples, both examples that are led by two very talented young people. Um, so they will share with us. I just want to introduce them. So we have Caleb Teslima, who has designed and led something called HaHu Jobs. It's something that it's a platform in Ethiopia. And I'm also delighted that Samuel Joy, who is the founder and CEO of Huntr in the UAE, has also designed a similar solution, but it's particularly targeted for health, which is quite interesting. And I'm delighted that one of my colleagues, Koen Mastant, who's based in Ethiopia, the World Bank, and works quite a bit on sort of on the ground in the field, working with people below the poverty line, disadvantaged people in Ethiopia. So Koen will give us a bit of a perspective in terms of what do these innovations mean for bank operations, how might we use them, and in particular, I believe the bank has worked with Caleb platform. And so and just to keep in mind that the audience here are people who are practitioners. So just the idea is here to have a frank conversation. Okay, this is what I did. This is where I struggled. This is working well, and then for us to discuss what that means for job matching, how job matching needs to be done. Okay. So with that, I hand it over to you, Caleb. I think you're going first. Thank you so much again for joining. Over to you. Caleb, can you hear
All
me?
right. Sorry. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sorry. I was trying to
I think we probably lost connection with. I think this may be a bad network issue. You're back.
Hello. What about now? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
All right. So I'm just gonna share my screen real quick, so that I'll be able to, give you a view of my slides, and we can take it from there. So can you see it yet, or?
No, it may be loading up.
What about now?
Yep. Bingo.
You listen? All right. All right. Thank you very much for the introduction. Really appreciate it. So today I'm just going to talk about how we challenged, youth unemployment through our platform. And it's basically a data-driven job matching platform. And in that sphere, I plan to talk about these 5 things. First one would be how our platform is basically built to serve a certain ecosystem, and also what our current services are, and what unique values, or what's unique about us and what we do in terms of the African job matching context, and also what values we brought to the market niche. So, and the last one would be what would the role of data would be specifically in labor market. Since I'm more familiar with the Ethiopian labor market, I'm going to discuss more about the role of data in the context of the Ethiopian market. So basically, our platform is a cloud solution where most of the implementation revolve around 4 major pillars. The first one being providing a structured record of job seekers. As you said, defining yourself in a set of documents to be qualified for employment is a challenge. So how we approached it is give it a data structure template where people can define themselves within that sphere of data. So the next one would be capturing the labor demand and or vacancies from companies and catering or addressing those based on predefined parameters, so that we would have a standard way of addressing labor demands or vacancies from companies. And a third one would be visualize generated data, because this process basically creates a tremendous amount of data in terms of the labor capacity and in terms of what labor demands that are out there. So, and the last one is providing software services, because most of the needs are usually addressed through software automations and software function services that are offered for stakeholders, also government bodies in our case. So the ecosystem generally, offers these services in these paradigm, as you can see it, and then it's essentially built around the job seeker. It starts out with advising, also aggregating opportunities for the job seeker, and also building a structured CV, as we call it usually, and then availing it for the vacancies that are already available. And the next one would be on services that are specific for government. And this is basically the government in relation to labor and also investor relations, labor law enforcement, and also local and overseas, citizen deployment challenges that should be and could be addressed through automation. And next one would be development partners. As you know, Africa is a huge host for development partners, and there are various NGOs that operate within this sphere. So there's high demand for data when conducting or planning interventions. And these researches end up usually requiring data that is not availed by the government, which we are, working to address. And a second one would be the industry park clusters of our services, which basically requires a niche automation or a niche automation for us to source and supply job seekers through partners that we have within the service paradigm of this industry park. And the next one is, of course, the enterprises, people that are actually, or the companies or the factories that are employing these individuals, which usually require human resource management solutions, property management and training, and also vacancy administration services. And last but not least, also is the education sphere, where in institutions such as like TVETs, universities, and online learning platforms would vend students or qualified candidates for specific jobs that we aim to match them with. So we have, platforms addressing each of these components, but as you can see, the emphasis goes counterclockwise. Yeah. So, all right. So what are our services, right? So our services basically are deployments of a cloud service. And the first and primary service that I wanted to discuss is the industry park services. So the primary solution for this is initially what we did was actually know the audience, meaning actually capture the details of of the candidates or employees that are already working within industry park, so that we would be able to identify our impact when we start supplying labor to these industry parks. So the first step, as you can see, or the first service that we offer is, the cleaning and visualization of existing operators' information and data. And it's after that that we uniquely identify these individuals. So this, I could not stress this enough, is part of our crucial success in terms of identifying these individuals biometrically without the need of any third-party services. In Africa or in Ethiopia particularly, there's literally no way of identifying an individual uniquely, provided that we don't have any national IDs in place yet. And also, we don't have any way of identifying a certain individual based on national ID or a Kabale or Warada ID, as we call them here, as they have no consistent formatting. So us being able to identify these individuals and also building a profile around that identity helped us tremendously in supplying and allocating individuals to industry park labor demands. So the next one would be the allocation. Allocation is pretty much straightforward, so there will definitely be demands from industry parks, and then we supply individuals that are uniquely identified and digitally registered on our platforms. And this actually, eases a lot of burdens for these international manufacturers. So the next one is recruitment updates. So we also make sure not only we allocate individuals, we also make sure where these individuals went, where they're rejected, where they're hired, and then where they're terminated, and basically track their employment status throughout. And the reporting and analytics of this actually summarizes most of the data that we source through the process of addressing the supply and demand chain. Last but not least is definitely a training. Provided technology is somewhat new context for the Ethiopian market, so we find ourselves providing several trainings for company employees and also government hired employees, and through that we've been able to serve over 13 industry parks through the nation, and we have over 100K users both in low and medium scale and graduate level. And luckily, since industry parks are mostly working on apparel and textile, 85% of those are females. So next one would be our enterprise services and what we offer to our customers or company clients. The first one would be sourcing. Sourcing not only graduates or low and medium, not only graduates and all these high level or high skill professionals, also on the side of low and medium skill workers, which in NGO terms usually are defined as unconnected because they really don't have the resources to define themselves digitally or manually, be it because they lack the capacity to do so. So we offer them have assisted services where they can actually have a profile to be employed at a certain factory. And we also provide automation services to our customers. These process of managing vacancies, shortlisting individuals, and also hiring these many or in higher quantities as a challenge. So we offer them these automation services. And we also profile their already employed individuals through our human resource management platforms or functions, as you call it, and also provide them insight data in that aspect. And we also offer them digitized reports and also any intake or also labor market acquisition status they have, which is essential, especially for factory workers, because there's high turnover when it comes to manufacturing jobs. And last but not least is we offer them, vacancy management where they can post jobs for free and also make it available for a variety of job seekers for their selection. To get back to this one, we serve over like 310 companies, and within this sphere, we have about like 15K users. The last one, not actually last one, one of the primary services that I wanted to talk about was the vacancy aggregation services. So we didn't want to reinvent the wheel by being the go-to establishment for posting vacancies. So what we did was try to aggregate whatever is available into one platform and structured it so that our users would have an easier time scrolling through or identifying what specific skill sets they have and which of these vacancies they can apply for. And the next one is we also offered this or increased the accessibility through social media integrations, be it chatbots and also social media Telegram channels and also Telegram groups where specific types of jobs would be available for our clientele. And these individuals would see and know the details of these vacancies and also go to the source of this vacancy so that they would be able to apply. Last but not least, within the scope or the premise of the service, we also offer a public consumable analytics service where we can actually measure up on which sector vacancies were common or in which type of positions and also in what kind of experience requirements that they had. And these are usually offered for the public so that we can offer or inform the public on which sectors to look job for, because we have this capacity of aggregating and also generating insights. In this sphere, maybe to talk numbers, since 2019, we were able to aggregate almost 15,000 work vacancies within the country. And we've availed these, as I said, in multiple outlets. The last one I wanted to talk about, and which is very important and near and dear to me, is the National Recruitment Platform that we helped design in partnership with the Jobs Creation Commission of Ethiopia, which was under the Prime Minister office. While this this commission office now has grown to a ministry, the aim of the project that we did was the scaling of the initial model that we have within the industry parks, standardizing the way Ethiopian talent is basically digitally represented for international clientele because we have government-to-government job orders, and also assessing these individuals in standard format so that selection would be transparent and also fair. And then we also try to work on recruiting for international capacity and define training models that are specific for job orders, companies or governments. And basically offer dashboards and insights on how to report on this aspect of things, because these activities, like the others that I discussed, generate uh, quite a lot of data in terms of identifying this job seekers and also defining the job order and then matching them in this aspect. So you might ask what's unique about us other than our Afro, of course. Uh, the first one would be this, as far as my knowledge and research goes, is one of the only, I would say, data-driven job matching platforms within Ethiopia. So we have this new approach. So that really helped us stand out from the crowd. And providing this assisted digital services where low and medium skilled workers can come to a hub office of ours and then actually get allocated for a specific job, all happening through digitally, is kind of a new model. And a third one would be we didn't actually go for posting vacancies, rather collecting them and then making sense out of them through structured data. And multiple deployments addressing each specific niches, meaning industrial parks have different needs, and also other contextual deployments such as like overseas employments and whatnot also needs a specific catering to software's functions. So we were able to have multiple deployments that address needs of each of stakeholders in that context, but we can basically extract a uniform data structure out of that. And the last one is we never tried to do it or deploy it all at once, or neither we tried to build it all at once. We always approached it based on phases, based on the phases that we thought is relevant. And that helped us acquire quite a lot of experience and also know-how and insights on our next ventures. And then we have tremendous government buy-in because we were able to supply them with various amounts of data where they can actually shape policies and also insights and decisions on, especially when it comes to relations with development partners, such as World Bank, the GIZ, SNV, etc. And the last one would be traceable data, provided that we capture, biometric details of these individuals and we were able to uniquely trace individuals with their specific status. This really helped us offer something noteworthy of insights to anyone that approached us. So in this side of things, yeah.
Do you mind wrapping up quickly? I just want to be able to have some time in the end for people to ask questions and discuss. Yeah.
Sure. So value add in business model is basically, since we have data-driven job matching, that's a new value added for the market. Scalable models, especially for local context, addressing low and medium skilled job seekers, meaning there's literally no platform in Ethiopia that I know of that addresses low and medium skilled job workers, or the ones that we call unconnected. And the next one is we also have access to overseas markets now that we started working with the government in the national recruitment platform. And literally there's zero cost to the job seeker, provided we're operating in a third world country. There isn't much of a purchasing capacity, so catering to that is a new value to the business. Our business model usually revolves around billable candidate per allocation, meaning you pay for individuals for the quantity of individuals that are being allocated to you. And then we have subscription fees for, the data request. And we charge private sectors for these access to, details of job seekers that we captured. And then we also offer cost per value as we're a software development company. We also sell developer hours for specific niche automations we may have from our clients. Last one is what would be the role of data in the Ethiopian labor market context. The first one would be in the education sector. There's a huge need of balancing the quota of how many of individuals being graduated from a specific sector and how many we should be training. And this is evidently shown with the surplus of medical professionals that we have in the country. Having such data would definitely help shape the quota balancing. You have the reliable supply of qualified candidates, meaning if you have a pool for that your labor capacity as a nation, definitely helps in labor planning and also reliable supply for investors. Analyzing also the industry impacts based on the intakes they may have so that investment can be shaped in that manner. And the last one or the last two would be the labor policy guidance and also the same thing, offering insights for NGOs to have reasonable interventions. So I don't think I have a quick demo of our platforms, but thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you so much, Caleb. I have so many things that I want to find out more about, and I'm thinking that before I invite Samuel, I was wondering if perhaps we might go straight to Kuhn because Kuhn, you've been working in Ethiopia too, and this is a platform in Ethiopia, and I wonder if you could share some insights on ground in terms of how you work and what might be some remaining challenges.
Yes, of course. I'll keep my video on, hoping that the bandwidth will be okay. So yeah, no, thanks for the presentation, Kalab. And so we've been working for quite a while together. And yeah, I want to just share some ideas on this. So first of all, I think what's very unique about this platform is in the Ethiopian context, when you look at the private employment intermediation services that are out there, there are very, very few. There's basically one large platform which focuses very much on the high end of the labor market. And in terms of lower skill employment matching, there is almost nothing going on except HaHu Jobs. And what's so impressive about HaHu Jobs is that even though the market is maybe not even so competitive, they are going beyond what you would expect in terms of technology and data use. I also think that's why, for example, they've been able to work so closely with government because their model is very unique in that regard. I think in other contexts, such as Kenya, South Africa, a lot of this has been done much more, but in Ethiopia, this is very unique. And I think that is very impressive. And by doing that, it's HaHu Jobs is pushing both sort of the frontier in private sector, I think, but also on government side. And so we see this in our operations. We work with the government on sort of reforms in public employment services. And as part of that, we are also supporting them with the setting up of a labor market information system. And I think a lot of these reforms, I don't want to say are directly inspired by some of the work that is being done by HaHu Jobs, but they are showing what is possible. And I think government is very interested in this. Of course, the national recruitment platform that Kalab was showing is one of those examples where they actually outsourced it to HaHu Jobs. But I think sort of being a shining example of what is possible by using these data-driven models is very important, both towards the rest of the private sector in Ethiopia as well as government. Now, in terms of sort of concrete collaboration, and something that he mentioned at the start of his presentation, they initially started working very much on the industrial park agenda in Ethiopia, where basically you have these special economic zones where there's factories that need labor, mostly in garment factories. And so prior to the rollout of the platform that HaHu Jobs sort of gave to government didn't really have a good way of allocating labor to these factories, but through using biometric identification of job seekers, they really were able to create a system that uniquely identifies workers, which is part of a larger allocation and training system. And I think this is very unique and also has been effective in getting firms to access labor. Now, we work specifically on an analytical program together with Kalab's team, looking at, well, the impact of labor across the different industries parts in Ethiopia. And now, at the start of COVID, we are not going to these are the export zones in the country. And because of his platform, we were very quickly able to in our process as a sampling frame to do all kinds of surveys on job and web. And I think this really allowed us as an analytical team and impact of COVID. If the platform would have not been there with all these sort of biometrically identified workers, it would have been very hard to quickly sample employees and run these kind of surveys. And so I think because I want to keep it a bit short, so for the next presentation will be the idea about this both from an analytical point of view and sort of policy perspective, as well as a broader sort of influence of HaHu Jobs on the private employment services in Ethiopia and government. It's been able to really contribute on sort of our understanding of labor markets in Ethiopia. So I'll stop here just to leave a bit of time for the Q&A as well.
Thanks so much, Poon. And I think what is very interesting in what you said is that usually we see like a segmented solution market, right? You'll see one set of solutions for governments and beneficiaries of government programs, and then you see another set of job matching solutions for the private sector and private employees in the formal sector. But what is nice is that this platform has been able to sort of address both parts of that market in an interesting way. And I see that the chat is buzzing with questions, particularly about access to, in terms of opportunity to young girls, maybe, women, and also people with disabilities. And then also there's a question on what challenges you faced in the ecosystem. And from my side also, I had a question just about your biometrics. We'll come to some of these questions later, because I will first want to hear what Samuel has to say, which is a different kind of platform in a different sector, right? So over to you, Samuel, and please do post your questions in the chat. And Caleb, if you can see also the questions in the chat, we'll come to those to it. Over to you, Samuel.
Thank you, Ms. Namita, Datta, and thank you, Ms. Angelica, and the rest of the team at the World Bank and S4YE. Thank you for inviting me here today. And so I'm going to start by sharing my screen. I just want to show a quick video. Yes, I hope everyone can see the screen.
Huntr is the next-gen recruiting platform that matches employers with a curated community of global healthcare talent by just swiping right, making the recruitment process simple, fast, and fun for both recruiters and job seekers. All you need to do is fill out a 2-minute registration form with your company's details. After registration, you're pretty much done. Once you've posted a job, you can start swiping right on potential candidates and get matched. Once matched, recruiters have the option to use the application or the web application to view and chat with shortlisted candidates.
I hope that gives a gist of what the application is about. And so I'm just going to pull up my presentation as well. I hope, yes, everyone can see my presentation. And so, yes, Huntr is basically, Huntr is a next-gen recruiting platform that connects, matches employers with a curated community of the best global healthcare as well as the blue-collar talent. So our solution is a digital AI-based marketplace that democratizes access to workers. And this saves the job seeker at least 6 months of salary, which they would have otherwise paid to the manpower recruiters, while in pursuit of a better life for their families in a foreign shore. And so I have seen countless experiences of people, single mothers, people who come here on visit visas. They've been offered employment opportunities, and they come here and they find out that there was no employment opportunities. In fact, the agency sent a fake offer letter, and they come here and they and these people would have spent like $3,000 and upwards to even like around $8,000 to get the job. And so with that in mind is how we came up with Huntr. So we've seen of how the supply of healthcare workers is centralized within recruitment agencies, and so they tend to exploit the users due to that. And usually the heavy demand is further expanded, like in the Middle East, we have in Dubai the Expo 2020, which is going, and so hence the supply is also limited due also because of what we're seeing with COVID and all that. And candidate, as I said, they get charged. I mean, normally agencies charge 1 month to 2 months salary, but we have seen most of the agencies charging exploiting people from $3,000 and upwards. And they lack access to the opportunity because there is no straightforward and transparent process which are set in place. And so that is how we came up with the solution of Huntr, where access is democratized to healthcare workers as well as blue collar workers, and they can instantly find vetted healthcare workers. So unlike the other traditional job platforms where people can upload CVs and the recruiter goes through all these different CVs, taking time sifting through multiple CVs. Over here, Huntr shortlist automatically. Our technology automatically shortlists by sourcing and by sourcing, by shortlisting, and by matching using the technology. And so the recruiters are basically sifting through the shortlisted CVs, and the candidates get better opportunities to access the world of employment without being charged fees and saving them at least a month's salary. I would say way more compared to what agencies are charging, which they would otherwise pay to recruiters. And so, just like how Caleb said, we at Huntr as well created an whole entire ecosystem as well. And so, the first part is what I was sharing about, which is the job opportunity side of things. And so, I do believe that education also is connected with regards to job opportunity. And it just it was a natural progression in terms of building our edtech solution, because there were candidates who basically asked. I mean, we are fresh out of Miss Namita. You mentioned that the candidates would come out and say we are fresh out and we don't have experience. So how do you basically get a job? And so that's where we create an edtech platform where, like, for example, for the healthcare workers in the US, you have HIPAA training, HIPAA license, but in the Middle East, you have something called the Dubai Health Authority license, the Ministry of Health license, and the hard license. For each state, they have their own licenses. And so through our edtech platform, they get vetted, they get licensed, and then we help them place the job. And so from the company standpoint of view, these people, the candidates who have come through, are verified and vetted by us. A good example would probably be like Alibaba, where if you go and buy products from suppliers, and if you see Alibaba's stamp on it, it means that there is a vote of confidence. Same exact thing. We have a a fintech solution which we're building where people can send money back home at a fraction of a cost compared to what the exchange houses in the Middle East are charging. And then we have physical and mental well-being, where we are partnered with primary healthcare hospitals, providing healthcare to the blue collar and the healthcare workers as well. And so we have an iOS app, an Android app, we have a web app, we have a video based CV where video based profile where they can pitch in 1 minute why they are best fit for the job. And we have an AI based technology which help them match based on cultural perspective, which I'm going to speak about later. And so I just want to talk about basically in the case of hiring and talent mobility specifically, the status quo is deeply flawed and frankly dystopian for four main reasons. And this is: unconscious human bias leads to unfair hiring decisions, and unconscious human bias leads to unfair internal mobility decision, and a significant pool of job seekers are being ignored because of these biased way of sourcing candidates and interviewing candidates. And traditional, as I mentioned earlier, traditional talent assessment tools are already biased. And so AI or algorithmic data matching holds the greatest promise for eliminating bias in hiring for couple of reasons. And unlike humans, data or matching technologies or AI can be debiased. And so matching using Hunter is purely algorithms that calculate certain data points like previous work experience, skills, whether it's soft skills or hard skills. And like I said, the vetted training center certifications. And the better responsive for applicants, which we have seen is fairness perceptions causes the candidates to be more likely, 30% more likely to accept offers
Samuel,
and more likely, yeah.
I just wanted to say that your slide is blank. Did you mean it to be blank? I mean, maybe it,
Oh,
okay, because we
is it
couldn't.
fine now?
Okay, now, yeah, now we can see it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. And yeah, better responsive for applicants. Yeah, so 30% more likely to uh, accept job offers. And high quality interviews is like I said earlier, like over here, the recruiter is basically going through the best candidates, which are already shortlisted using our technology, and so they don't have to go through sifting through technologies. And I mean, at the end of the day, we are all humans. We get tired going through like sifting through CVs, and and because of that, it can lead to biased decisions. And then this goes on to interviews, right? And so over here we have the best candidates which are being shortlisted, and then the interview process is also going with the best candidates. And also it can access the entire pipeline of candidates, unlike time constrained humans. As I said earlier, like we are not constrained with technology, it's not constrained by time, and which only shrink the channel and narrow definitions of potential. So how Hunter works with data when it comes to matching technology, I want to focus on these three points, which is sourcing. And so the sourcing algorithm is basically it searches the entire data points, entire users, and it will create a whole bulk of users at first, and then from there it goes into like filtering them based on, like I said earlier, data points like work experience, data points like skills, and then I'm going to go into the soft skills and the personality test and the culture aspect of things. uh, that also adds in, and finally these profiles are then matched with the companies based on the requirements which are put through. And this is where I was talking about the culture matching, where we have a personality test powered by an AI bot. And so the candidates go through a very basic test, but a very powerful test. And it's a 5-minute test where they input their answers, and then in the second stage they get a result, which they can then add to their profile. So the company receives information on candidates who are fit according to the culture of the organization. And so I just want to show you how it look like. It'll look like something like this, where how adventurous you are, your EQ level, your are you extrovert in nature or are you introvert in nature, or your level of intellectualness, or your level of grasping information, your openness, organization, so on and so forth. So this actually goes way beyond just the skills and the work experience, but moves on to soft skills and personality tests, which adds a lot more color to the candidates, and it's not biased. And so these are basically the ways in which we use data in leveraging data in terms of tackling exploitative recruitment practices. And I encourage all of you as well to leverage technology and leverage data to replace these exploitative systems with systems which progress human flourishing. And I'd like to end with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samuel. That was really, really interesting. And I was also curious a little bit about your, the demand side. Like, who are the, the organizations looking towards your platform? Are they hospitals? Are they big kind of medical agencies? Or are they also like people looking for home care, for example? And
Yes.
I'm also curious whether your platform is global. But maybe so yeah, maybe you want to just address those questions, and then I see lots of questions also for Philip in the chat. Uh, oh, and more to you. Okay, so there are lots of questions for you as well.
Should I answer the question now? Shall I go ahead?
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
sure. So with regards to the healthcare, actually, that was a very good question. And there are different target audiences, actually. There are hospitals, there are clinics, there are labor camps which needs nurses, and there are corporates which need nurses. There are schools which mandatorily needs nurses in the Middle East. Colleges, again, needs nurses in the Middle East. So these are our different category of clients. But when it's a marketplace, it's a two-sided marketplace, and always there is a problem of a chicken and egg situation when it comes to a marketplace technology. And so we were like, how do we address this, especially when it comes to healthcare? Which sector do we go to, or do we focus on the supply first, or do we focus on the demand first? And so we went for the low-hanging fruit, which is the caregivers, home care nurses, because when it came to home care nurses, they didn't have that much level of licenses and certifications that was required compared to a hospital, for example. And so that helped in terms of, and so we first started with the home care nurses, and then the demand basically brought in the supply, and then from there we started building on top of that. And then from apart from the healthcare as well, we also started a new vertical, which is the blue collar sector as well. And in the blue collar sector, we basically been targeting the large manpower companies with large requirements. And so that has also helped us, because the requirements are large and demand is large. That has also created a large pool of supply.
Mm, very smart. That's a smart. You identified a niche first, and then there are other questions for you in the chat. Like, first of all, how do you make sure that your matching algorithm itself? This is a big issue, by the way, that as we move to more and more a digital world, we can't say that the data is unbiased. Bias creeps in even when you are data driven. So how do you take that extra effort to make sure that that this doesn't replicate human bias? And then there's another. I'll just read 2 or 3 questions, and then you can address quickly in one, maybe.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
then there's another question about your big five, because I saw too that you were using the big five personality test. But also, how do you take into account other softer skills, uh, awareness, like patience, which is, and I think that particularly for healthcare workers might be really important, like empathy. How are you listening to your patients? I mean, I would imagine that's a really, really, while it's important for any sector, for health particularly, how do you test that? I think that's hard. Um, and then another question about how do you match on technical. Um, and then Samuel's comment, no, another comment from Sharon saying that how do you, yeah, so this concept of culture fit, how does that not become a source of bias itself? Like how do you make sure? Um, and then another, sorry, I'm rattling off so many questions at you, but then another question about how is the effectiveness after the matching is done? Like, you feel, have you tracked data on how people go on after they are placed? Like, you might want to keep your responses short, because I also go to Philip because there's a ton of questions. Yeah.
Sure. So I'm just going to tackle how do you ensure that the matching algorithm isn't biased if it is trained on data that is already incorporates human biases. Okay, so apart from the matching technology, I just also want to touch upon that we have a verification process, which it's a mixture of the technology and a mixture of the manual process as well, because I do believe that human element also plays a big role. And in that verification process is where basically there's a quick verification process where
Okay, there was a thunderstorm somewhere. Can I request everyone to mute, please?
yeah, so it's a very quick verification, and so in that aspect of there's a verification through our AI-based technology where it vets or it identifies licenses and certifications. But apart from that, there's a short interview done with the candidate, and that's where actually we come across their stories. And that's why I don't want to completely cut off that piece and move into completely digital transformation of that process, because that's where we come to know the real stories of people and how what has happened with them. And so we have tons of the stories which we hear through our experiences. And so it's a mixture of both. And so even if the technology is biased, we do also have a human element side of things where it goes through a double verification, and I believe that is important. And um, and we do put our comments as well, by the way, for the profiles. And so in our profiles you have comments written on it for the recruiters to see. Um, and with regards to, again, it goes back into the second point as well, second question as well, about the five personality test. Whereas if we feel that there are certain skills or something which the person does show, we can add that in as well, apart from what the technology has mentioned. And do you also match on technical skills? Yes, we do. That's actually primarily what our data point in which we touch. We look at work experience, we look at technical skills, but these are soft skills which come additional apart from the technical skills. Um, and so I think like the idea of ensuring cultural fit, but that also not become a source of by itself. Again, goes on to from basically from not just from a technological point of view, but also from a human element point of view needs to be there when the verification process is done. And so we have best of both worlds. And I strongly also do believe that we cannot completely move into a technology, a full solution which is fully controlled by technology when it comes to recruiting humans, and especially in these sectors, because everyone has a story to tell. And we use this specifically in terms of building new and more features. And I think the last one which was mentioned is I believe there was the one last question. um, I can't seem to remember.
Well, let me come back to you on the last question, which is really
Sure.
about how you track people after they are
Oh,
matched. But I
yes.
wanted to go
Yes.
to you, Kaleb. There are some questions for you that you might have seen in the chat. I mean, just your sense of challenges that you might have faced from the system and how you address them, or like anything that stands out, like your top challenge and how you address it. And then a question that we are becoming increasingly very concerned and active about is a lot of these portals, like a lot of these digital portals used for different aspects. How do you make sure they're also accessible to people with disabilities? And this goes into, even things like how you have to think about the design, the interface, like, well, do you have, sort of some sorts of, already some software included that somebody who has a visual disability, let's say, can be still effect. So have you thought about that? And if not, maybe put that on the card. And then really another question which struck me too, like because you collect a whole lot of biometric information, how do you handle data privacy? This is big. I mean, this is going to be even bigger. And then the fourth one, and again, sorry, I know that you have to keep track of all of these questions, but another one is really about um, from the job seekers, particularly those who have low and medium skills. Like a lot of them may not be familiar with digital, may not have digital literacy. So, what is your experience? Are they still being able to enter their data comfortably, or do you do it on the phone, or how do you navigate over to you?
All right. I think I'm going to start with the challenges first, right? I mean, there's tremendous amount of challenges. It's Africa, so but the ones that really stand out are basically understanding amongst the stakeholders. Government and also the companies that operate there are usually skeptical of like these digital solutions that capture data, and then not them not feeling the freedom of operation, and that really results in a huge pushback and challenges in our endeavors, especially I'm talking about from the experience of industry parks. And the next one is um, even the workers or the graduate level workers or the ones that we call blue collars even find themselves digitally not equipped in order to define themselves in such sophisticated manner, and then even assigning individuals for those kind of needs as well. So these would be my two primary challenges that I would like to discuss, but how we address them is the first one is, of course, through government, because government needs this data in order for them to plan, different endeavors. So we were able to approach the companies in that sphere and also providing training on how this is beneficial for, all stakeholders, knowing your ecosystem, knowing your market, knowing your area is always more valuable than, venturing through, some uh, guesses or wise decisions, you know what I mean? And the last one, how we addressed, is basically training. We offer like trainings for even one-to-one sessions for job seekers, especially that are looking to get employed in Middle Eastern countries, since they're the most vulnerable. We try to give them insights on how they should compose their CVs, both in our platforms even and also in other contexts as well, because we didn't want it to be HaHu Jobs contexted way of developing your profile, rather a more informed or modernized way of defining your profile and telling employers your career standing in that aspect. So that's basically our approach, because in Africa we don't even have the right infrastructure to address every job seeker, let alone offer any additional services. So what we try to do as best as we could is optimize resources in addressing each individual and educating them in the values these platforms bring. So that's we usually cope with these challenges in that aspect. In terms of data privacy, the biometric details that we capture are usually used for identification purposes. And the profiles we capture are usually under the sphere of government. So there is a huge data governance policy that we have contracts with the government, and also MOUs, and also some binding best practice policies that we're following through. And to be completely honest, even if we have this data, there's literally no market for it. Should we want to, migrate it to a third service provider? Because these data is actually very essential even for the basics of services of banking, billing, and all of this. And this is literally non-existent in especially in the Ethiopian context. Most of us are stuck with working with spreadsheets. So you can understand the disconnect between those aspects. So in terms of data privacy, uh, especially the industry parks is the one that generates the most amount of data. So there is a huge binding operation guidelines that is agreed between us and the government in order to utilize this data responsibly, even to a point having it compliant with the GDPR policy. But our platform is only 3 years old, so the GDPR implies for like 5 years of and personal data in storage. So, I mean, we should revisit this 2 years after now. And the last one would be how do we address different know-how of technology, and also different levels of qualification in terms of education, right? So like I said, we literally have almost 10 or 9 offices because of the current situation in Ethiopia. Some of them are not functional. So we literally have a face-to-face services for every low and medium skill worker, because in Ethiopia, I can definitely say more than 80 to 85% of those that are operating or looking for a job in the low and medium skill workers do not have the remote capacity to even fill out digital forms, no matter how easy they are. So we usually have hub workers stationed in each of our offices where people could literally come in, get their photos taken, get the details taken, and get their education and skills based on those data set models that we have and capture all those details, and then I build them for companies for employment choices. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I think I've
that
addressed.
just, yeah, no, you did. And you know, that it just points to the fact that as we become more and more digital in a lot of these services, I think, and both of you mentioned this, even Samuel highlighted that there is still, I think there's still a need for some sort of a hybrid solution. Like we can't go fully digital for several reasons, including the one that you mentioned, Caleb, that a lot of people are simply not have that sort of level of familiarity digital. Hopefully, in a few years, that would change. But thank you so much to all three of you, and particularly to the two of you who have led these very interesting solutions and initiatives that are playing such an important role. And we learned so much from you, and that you're too young. This is what is so inspiring about my job. I feel I get to hear such inspiring things by young people. So thank you so much for joining us. And for all of you, I know we couldn't get to all of the questions, and I'm really sorry about that. I know we could have gone on for at least another half an hour. But we will share the recording of this session. It will be on our website. Just give us like half a day, maybe by tomorrow. We'll have the recording on our website, and also Samuel's and Khatib's presentations we'll put it on our website. So thank you so much for joining and sharing your insights. And thank you all for your questions. Thank you. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Kun.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity as well. Thank you very much.
So much.